Voyager 1 crossed into the cold, silent vacuum of interstellar space, drifting alone and unyielding as it whispered secrets from the edge of everything we thought we understood. For decades, it sent home data from a realm no human eye had ever seen. But recently something changed. After months of eerie silence and a critical data failure, Voyager 1 came back online. But this time, what it sent back didn't resemble the clean language of science. It didn't sound like data. It sounded like a warning, a strange hum, steady, low frequency, a tug, gravitational but invisible, and most chilling of all, a silence. From NASA, deliberate and profound, silence that echoed louder than the vacuum Voyager was drifting through. This wasn't just another deep space anomaly. It felt like confirmation that what we had feared, what some had suspected for decades, might be true. That the edge of our solar system isn't empty. Maybe it never was. For over 40 years, Voyager 1 has been the quiet hero of human exploration, a ghost ship propelled by ambition and dreams, sailing ever further into the unknown. It surpassed every prediction, every life expectancy, and even as its instruments aged and its systems withered, it endured, not just functioning, but communicating, until late 2024, when that all changed. At NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, engineers noticed the data feed from Voyager had turned to static. The orderly strings of measurements, temperature, plasma, magnetics, all vanished. In their place, garbled, unreadable noise, not silence, but chaos. The spacecraft's memory, the flight data system, had failed. Like a person with a scrambled mind, Voyager was still speaking, but its voice no longer made sense. For 5 agonizing months, engineers tried to reach it. Every command had to travel 15 billion miles, taking 22.5 hours to arrive. Then, assuming Voyager could respond, another 22.5 hours to get an answer. Nearly 2 days for a single back and forth, and in those months, nothing. Don't make me say it twice. Hit subscribe before the aliens do it for you. But then, on March 20th, 2025, something happened. Something no one expected. Voyager answered, not just with a ping. It sent data, real, structured information. The control room erupted. Decades-old machinery had blinked awake again. There was celebration, relief, triumph, until they looked closer. Because what Voyager sent back didn't make sense. The instruments were working, the systems were intact, but the environment, what Voyager was measuring, was wrong. It didn't fit any known model. It didn't follow the rules we thought governed that far reach of space. Voyager had passed the heliopause years ago, the theoretical edge of the sun's influence. Beyond it lay interstellar space, vast and thought to be relatively stable. A slow fading into nothingness. But what Voyager described now wasn't gentle, it wasn't peaceful, it was turbulent, violent, a chaotic boundary, a wall. Instead of a smooth transition, Voyager reported intense fluctuations, pressure spikes, bursts of radiation, and plasma fields behaving like nothing ever modeled before. It wasn't just weather in space, it was disturbance, as if something massive was pushing back, bending the very rules of physics. And then came the most unnerving readings. The density of particles in the space around Voyager began to pulse. Not randomly, rhythmically, a deep thudding fluctuation, like a heartbeat, reverberating through space. It didn't look like static. It didn't feel like malfunction. It was too deliberate. Voyager's instruments caught it across multiple channels. The pulse wasn't just a blip, it was consistent, growing stronger as the probe drifted deeper into this anomalous zone. Some thought it might be a new cosmic phenomenon. Others weren't so sure. Then they found the signal. Buried inside the flood of data was a narrow band frequency, low, unwavering, haunting, 3 kilohertz, too low to be plasma resonance, too consistent to be a natural echo. It had no modulation, no obvious message, but it was there, constant, like a ticking clock. Coming from somewhere beyond, the signal had shown up faintly years before, dismissed then as background noise. But now it was undeniable, clearer, sharper, stronger. The closer Voyager moved toward a particular sector of space, the louder it became. Not in volume, but in clarity, as if whatever was emitting it was drawing nearer. Or listening closer. NASA couldn't explain it, and behind closed doors, that uncertainty turned to fear. Inside Mission Control, the tone changed. The celebration was gone. The brief triumph of re-establishing contact gave way to something heavier, something more cautious. The engineers weren't just decoding numbers anymore. They were peering into a part of the universe that might not be as empty as we believed. They began to suspect the unthinkable, that Voyager wasn't just observing the universe anymore, it was being observed. The gravitational drift came next. Voyager was off course. Subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but then undeniable. It was no longer following the trajectory its thrusters and cosmic momentum predicted. Something was pulling it, something unaccounted for. When compared against long-standing trajectory models, Voyager's path had shifted consistently, steadily, as if drawn by a hand from the dark. NASA checked for errors. They checked for system degradation, for micrometeoroid impacts, for anything that could explain the drift. But the pull didn't behave like random interference. It was directional, measured, persistent. And the destination? Nothing. No stars, no planets, no recorded bodies, just a dark region of space, empty by every measure we have from Earth. Yet Voyager moved toward it, unbendingly. NASA began to quietly redirect assets. Deep space arrays turned to scan the region. High sensitivity. Instruments aboard other satellites began listening. But they found nothing. No mass signature, no reflected light, no radiation spike, just void. And still the pull persisted. Was it a rogue planet? A black hole? A concentration of dark matter? The theories poured in, but none fit. None explained the pulse, the signal, the field of turbulent plasma, or the structured nature of the data itself. Some began to whisper a terrifying possibility, that Voyager wasn't falling into gravity, it was being led, that something out there had noticed the probe and was reacting. Then, the silence on Earth. Began updates from NASA's Deep Space Network, once shared publicly, were delayed, then redacted. Logs went missing. Public-facing engineers fell silent. Even unofficial communications stopped. People who once posted mission updates every week vanished from view. Inside, sources hinted at meetings, closed-door briefings involving not just NASA, but defense agencies, government security branches, and unidentified third parties. No one said it aloud, but everyone felt it. The story had changed. This wasn't just space science anymore. This had crossed a line into something else, something sensitive, something dangerous. Theories exploded online. Independent researchers tore through archived data. Some returned to old anomalies, like the Pioneer anomaly, tiny decelerations in other deep space probes that had never been fully explained. Others pointed to ancient sky records, odd cosmic rays, or gaps in the cosmic microwave background, but most focused on Voyager. Was the signal a natural emission? Was the gravitational pull a fluke of dark energy? Or was this something different, something artificial? A response? What if Voyager had triggered something dormant, a cosmic switch, a perimeter defense, a sensor left behind by something ancient? One theory, buried in the chatter, gained quiet momentum. That space beyond the heliopause isn't passive, that it's not just a void, but a system. That Voyager didn't just stumble into space, it crossed a threshold. And that threshold may have rules or watchers. And now we are left with the question that has haunted every generation of explorers. Those who sailed uncharted oceans, who crossed deserts with no end in sight, who looked up at the stars and dared to wonder what lies beyond. But this time, the answer may not be romantic. This time, it may be unsettling. What if the edge of our solar system wasn't the end of something, but the beginning? Not just a transition from known to unknown, but a deliberate divide. A boundary placed with purpose, because Voyager 1 didn't just detect anomalies. It didn't just return garbled data and recover. It whispered, and in that whisper there was a pattern, not of speech or symbols, but of rhythm, a pulse, a presence. What if the signal isn't just a background hum, but a response mechanism, something meant to remain dormant unless disturbed? What if the gravitational tug isn't a random anomaly, but a tether? What if Voyager is being drawn, not toward an object, but toward an interaction, an answer? The signal persists, the pull grows, the silence deepens, and now, for the first time, even the most grounded scientists are asking, was sending Voyager a mistake? It was meant to be a goodbye letter, a golden record carrying our voice into the void, a symbol of peace, curiosity, and human resilience. But perhaps that letter found a reader, and perhaps the reader is replying, if space itself can respond, if it can react to our presence, then it is not passive, it is not indifferent, it is aware. And awareness implies something more. We've always believed in boundaries. We drew maps, built borders, planted flags. Even in the void, we carried that belief with us. The sun's reach ends here. The galaxy begins there. But what if we were wrong? What if the silence we've heard from space wasn't emptiness, but restraint? And Voyager, that fragile metal envoy sailing deeper than any machine before it, may have just crossed a line no one knew existed. If what lies beyond isn't just more space, but a system with rules, reactions, and responses, then our journey is not just exploration, it's intrusion. And now we have to ask the question that no one dares to speak aloud. Are we still the observers, or have we become the observed? Whatever comes next, one thing is clear. Voyager's last whisper wasn't just data. It was a knock, a ripple, a signal across the dark, and something out there may have heard it. 3 weeks ago, without any explanation, the signal changed. It didn't stop. It didn't fade. It evolved. The pulse that had once been steady began to fluctuate in a way that resembled encryption. Intermittent intervals, layered frequencies, stacked harmonics. For decades, scientists had dreamed of a message from the stars, a hello, a sign of intelligence. But what came through now wasn't friendly. It wasn't structured like a greeting. It felt more like a scan. Each layer of the signal seemed to probe a different aspect of Voyager, its thermal emissions, its radiation leaks, even the exact decay rate of its plutonium power core. It was as if someone was dissecting the probe, learning it, cataloging it. Voyager wasn't just being pulled, it was being analyzed. Keep exploring, this video's waiting for you.